Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Making Excellent Customer Service the Standard podcast. Interviews with experts, frontline, on-the-job customer service professionals, product reviews, and more to help you make excellent customer service the standard. All right, we are back for another week of Making Excellent Customer Service the Standard podcast. My name is Abraham Venismach, and I will be your host today. Hey, I want to ask you guys a question here. What are you doing to make excellent customer service the standard? I want to hear about that. You can send me an email at abraham@excellentcustomerservice365.com. And also you can post in our LinkedIn group, Making Excellent Customer Service the Standard. Well, listen, we have a guest for you today, just like we have a guest every week that is going to help you make it happen. So before I get into that, though, I was kind of thinking about, they say about putting a smile on your face when you're on the phone and people can hear that smile. Well, I was thinking like acronyms for smile. So I'd like to hear what other people have as acronyms. I came up with smiling makes it a lot easier. Huh? How do you like that, huh? I'd like to hear what your acronym can be. You can shoot it out to the LinkedIn group, Making Excellent Customer Service the Standard. I just want to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by me. I do podcast production as well as webinar production. I'm also a digital event strategist, so I can help you bring your message online and make it interactive. And finally, I'm a customer service solution matchmaker. Now, because I'm doing this, I'm meeting so many wonderful people that can help you make excellent customer service a standard, either by coaching or by training or even by products. You can contact me and I can help you solve your problems. Again, that's Abraham at excellentcustomerservice365.com. Well, got that out of the way. Listen, we have Ron Kaufman, who is out there uplifting the world. He has a book out called Uplifting Service. Now, I've been listening to the audiobook. Those audiobooks, I love them. I'm losing weight and I'm uplifting my service bar. I highly recommend that book. You can pick it up on Audible and hear it for yourself. I've been interviewing a lot of different customer service people, and everyone has just an incredible message. I think Ron takes it a step further because he actually gets in and defines service. He has his own definition. And not only that, but he feels that that is a human core value. That means it's a foundational principle which you can stand on and build on. So let me get Ron on here. All right, we have Ron Kaufman with us today. Hi, Ron.
It's a pleasure to be with you. Thanks.
It's great to have you on. I've been looking at your website and learning about you, and I have to say I really like your message. I think it's fabulous. Tell us a little bit about yourself. In fact, what I saw was that you're in Singapore.
Well, I was born in the States and lived there for most of my early life, but moved to Singapore 25 years ago to help the nation work on a very important national level project, which was to raise the service standards in the entire country. And the reason was that all of the manufacturing was moving out to China, and all of the back office processing was moving off to lower cost India, and Singapore's economy was going to be hollowed out.
Whoa.
And so they looked forward into the future and they realized they needed to literally reinvent the economy to be based on services. So medical services, financial services, convention and hospitality services, educational services. It was a great vision, but the population of the country had not really been educated to manage unique customer requests or to be responsive or proactive or creative. They had been trained to work in factories. So the government leaned in and did a joint venture with Singapore Airlines, which was the one Singaporean company that had a great reputation for service, and put together a company to raise the service standards of the whole nation. I was invited there as a consultant for 1 week. At the end of a week, they asked me to stay for a month. At the end of a month, they asked me to run the project for 7 months, and I've been there now for 25 years. But my wife and I spend about 70% of our time outside of Singapore, traveling all over the world, working with clients, mostly large organizations on every continent and in every major industry.
You're taking over the world, I see.
Well, we're serving the world.
All
You know, the name of my book is called Uplifting Service. And really the position that we take is that service is the reason that human beings are here. We are fundamentally here on earth to take care of each other, to serve each other, to support one another, to be cared about each other's concerns. And the phenomenon of service given from one person to another should uplift not only the person who's being served, like you get good service, but should also be uplifting for the service provider. So
100%.
that the whole ecosystem of service to one another is an uplifting way of living.
Yeah, that is I would say, the highest level. When we see people that are trying to serve themselves, I don't think you find a lot of happiness there.
Well, there's nothing wrong with self-service, because if you take action to create value for yourself, that would be a definition of self-service. But if that's the way you're going through all of life, it's quite isolated. It's quite detached. Yeah. It's quite disenfranchised from the social phenomenon that we are as families, as communities, as groups, as tribes. We're human beings, and we're a species that are here to take care of each other.
That hits the nail right on the head. We were smoozing a little bit earlier, and I was so happy to read about your website and what you said, because we were talking about customer service and employee centricity and customer centricity, and then we came to saying, hey, listen, it's service centricity. And two things that are the most important thing in life is, like you're saying, service, and then being able to overcome the challenges that come at us with a very positive and a proactive attitude.
I agree with you.
Oh, well, thank you. That's quite an honor. You're going around the world and you're talking to all these different companies and people, and you're exposed to so many different things. What stands out in your mind as the biggest problem in customer service, and how do you solve it?
Yeah, that's a great question. As you said, my client base is really every major industry and in many, many different languages. Some of the courseware that I've created is now available in 15 different languages around the world. Wow. And so let me answer your question by going to the fundamentals. If you think about the importance of service, it's important for personal satisfaction, job satisfaction, customer satisfaction, company success as a government agency. Fundamentally service. Mm-hmm. But service was never really taught to us in school. It wasn't one of the topics, along with math and science and reading and geography and history. There really was never a class on how do you give somebody else a great service experience. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, as people have then gone on in life, the word service has been taken by many people to be sort of a low-level position. It's the waiter in the restaurant, or it's a position that's, I'm a professional. I'm not a service provider. And what's missing here is a good definition, a fundamental definition of service. And here's the definition that I've created and that we use with our clients all over the world. Service is taking action to create value for someone else. So let's look at that. Service is taking action. You got to do something for it to be service. Now, what's the purpose of the action? It's to do something that some other person will want, need, appreciate, prefer, benefit from, something that somebody else will value. And it's for someone else. So in that definition, service is taking action to create value for someone else. The most important thing is not the action that you take. The most important thing is how well do you understand the someone else that you're doing it for? Mm-hmm. How well do you really understand what they value? Mm-hmm. And then you can design the action you're going to take to create the value for that person. Mm-hmm. This approach wasn't really taught to us in school. And so what happens is we get people in a work environment who think that their job is following procedure. They think that their job is doing what's on the checklist or hitting the KPI without really understanding the purpose of the checklist, the procedure, the KPI is ultimately to generate a valuable state for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. You make a very good point about the school, because I think that school creates a more of a competitive environment rather than a service environment. I'm not saying
certainly not as much a collaborative environment, which all of us need to do when we go to work.
Yes, indeed. And I'm not saying being competitive is a bad thing. I think it's fabulous. It's what helps make the wheel turn. I think that there has to be a balance there, like what you're talking about. And I think that's what is lacking in Maine society, like you're saying, to be able to educate people in that idea. I just want to share one thought with you and see what you think.
Sure.
I had an experience today with a company that I went in that my eyeglasses broke. Actually, they were my sunglasses, their prescription. And what happened was that I came in with an attitude. I'm a little ashamed of myself, the way I came in. And I started to think about it from the perspective is that, here we are. We're expecting and demanding this customer service and just, with an attitude. And I'm thinking about what you're saying about the service attitude, and you're not defining that as a customer service. You're just saying service. And
let me respond, Abraham, to what you're saying there is that in a customer service situation, like you with your prescription sunglasses, there's two parties. One party is the service provider. That's the person that you took your glasses to. And let's face it, their job is to create a good service experience for you.
100%.
But the other role is your job as the
Right.
customer.
Mm-hmm.
And if service is taking action to create value for someone else, then you, as a customer, could also go into that situation with the intention of being appreciative, of being polite,
Right.
of being complete in terms of the information that you provide. You could take action in ways that would make it easier and better for that service provider to have served you.
100%.
So customer service is not a one-way street. It's a two-way partnership, and both parties can make it better.
100%, because I'm reading about interesting benchmarks that companies are setting, and they're talking about the expectations of the customer themselves, and they're getting higher and higher. And I'm thinking that, hey, where are we going with this? People are like, it's like almost like the Old West now. How fast can you, instead of your gun, how fast can I draw my finger to press a button to say how bad your service is? Rather than coming in with the attitude you're talking about, going, hey, listen, things happen. So let's see how we can work this thing out. Yes, I do expect you to do your part, but as a customer, I don't think I should be so ready to fire my finger, or my mouth off.
I absolutely agree with you. The next book that I'm working on, and this is the first time I'm announcing it publicly on your podcast, is called The Joy of Service.
Ooh.
And it really addresses the issues of resignation, resentment, cynicism, frustration, depression that exists so much in the world today, and that contribute to people having that finger that's ready to go blame and flame somebody else, where really we have the opportunity to do things to make the world better.
That's absolutely right. I like I said, I have to admit, I was really ashamed at my behavior. Even though I was the customer, I said, how could I act like that?
Well, take a deep breath and know that in the very next moment, you have the opportunity to take a new action that makes things better. Could be as extreme as writing a note to the person who served you and apologizing, or it could just be taking a deep breath and committing yourself to doing a better job in the very next interaction.
100%. And I'm glad that I felt the way I did. I was I was already ready and expecting to fight. And I had my finger out, ready, to say, hey, I can press one button, because that's how it works today. And thousands of people are going to know about your business and how bad you and you know what? That's terrible. And that's something that we, it's like we have to, put a safety on that finger.
So, the discussion that we've been having so far is really on a personal, individual basis. And that's very important, because each of us are individuals and we have choice about what we do in every moment. But let's take the conversation now in the direction of organizations, because another thing that really is not well taught is, how do you build a culture inside a large organization that continually encourages, supports, reinforces, educates, and enables people to give good service to each other inside the organization. And then as a team to give good service to clients, customers, members, patients, guests, visitors, whatever you call them, who are outside the organization,
Yes.
and even to the larger ecosystem of your suppliers, your vendors, your distributors, your business partners, even the government agents that regulate your industry. It's
Yes.
service in every direction. So how do you build that culture? That's really what my company, Up Your Service, does. So there's a distinction here between Ron Kaufman, who's the author, the consultant, the professional speaker, and the company that I've created, which is called Up Your Service. Ron Kaufman is the person you're talking to here. I've got lots of ideas and I love to share, but the company Up Your Service helps other large organizations to build that culture. And if you'd like, we can talk about what the fundamental elements are for building a culture that's strong and sustainable over time.
As you were talking about what you're doing, I'm thinking, wow, that is amazing. How can you do that? I mean, there's so many moving parts.
Well, there are three fundamental elements in addition to the definition that I already shared with you. You got to get everybody in the organization to understand the definition that service is taking action to create value for someone else. And by that definition, every single person in the organization is a service provider. So that's step one. You got to get everybody into the game with you. The second step is to lay a foundation. Like imagine a house. You've got to build a solid foundation of what we call actionable service education. Actionable service education. In other words, it's the principles of giving good service that we did not learn in school that need to be taught, but taught in a way that people can see, not like learning them to answer a question on a test, but learning them in application, learning them on the job, learning them in, so what do I actually do in that next email or that next phone call or that next face-to-face situation, whether it's with an external customer or an internal colleague that will produce a better experience, will create more value for that someone else. So that's the first stage, is to lay that foundation of educational principles. And I've written about that in my book, Uplifting Service, and that's what our company, Up Your Service, teaches to large companies. We use a train the trainer model so that they can scale to thousands and thousands of people and do it in a way that's very fast and economical and operationally flexible for them as well. Step one, lay the foundation. Okay, step two is making sure that the roof of the house is strong and supportive and protects the organization. And in that roof is what we call service leadership. In other words, the leaders of the organization, senior leaders as well as other leaders further down in the organizational chart, need to follow certain fundamental behaviors. I call them the 7 rules of service leadership. And we don't have time in the podcast to go into all 7 of them. But if any of the listeners want to go to YouTube and just type in Ron Kaufman, 7 rules, service leadership, you'll find a keynote speech that I've given on this topic that says, look, if you're going to have a strong culture, you've got to educate people about service. They've got to have the definition. They've got to have the principles. They got to know how the principles are put into action. And you've got to have the leaders of the organization behaving in a way every single day that role models the right kind of behavior, that takes the right leadership actions to protect the organization. And the third element is what's between the foundation and the roof. And if you think about it like a house, that's where you find the wood and the steel and the glass and the pipes and the wires. Well, in building a culture, it's where you find things like the recruitment strategy, the orientation program, the rewards and recognition program, how you capture voice of the customer, the service measures and metrics that you use, the service recovery policy, your methods for service benchmarking. There's what we call the 12 building blocks of service culture. And what an organization does in each of those building blocks will either reinforce superior service as what the culture is all about, or it will confuse people. Because some of the blocks will say that profit is important. And then another one will say speed is more important. And then another one will say cost control is more important. And then another one will say service is more important. And what we teach organizations to do is to audit themselves and then reevaluate what they're doing and align their activities in the 12 building blocks of service culture so that the entire house, the foundation, the building blocks, and the roof create the environment for a strong and sustainable service culture.
How long does something like that take?
That's a great question. We've noticed that within 12 months, any organization can see a fundamental change. If it's a small company, 12 months is enough to have a dramatic shift in the other direction. If it's a very large organization, you can begin the revolution. And within 24 months, you should see tremendous changes. But certainly within the first 12 months, you'll see major impact.
What resistance do you run into?
Ooh, you run into resistance all over the place. And that's why it's so essential that the very, very senior leadership of the organization is fully committed and supporting and sponsoring the entire drive to build a strong uplifting service culture. You can't do this just from the level of the human resources department. You can't change a culture just from the Learning and Development Academy. You've got to have buy-in from the top, because when resistance shows up, you need somebody who's going to stand there in the face of the resistance and say, we're going to proceed and we want to still pull you on board. A good example of this, Abraham, is a national airline that we've been working with called Air Mauritius. And 2 years ago, 24 months ago, they lost $30 million and they were ranked as a 3-star airline. There are 147 3-star airlines in the world. The CEO came in and he said, I want to turn this thing around. I want us to be profitable within 2 years. And at the same time, within 2 years, I want us to get from 3-star to 4-star. Now, you got to understand there's only 35 4-star airlines on the whole planet. So here's this guy in the face of a huge loss saying we're going to turn profit and we're going to shift from 3-star to 4-star. And we worked with them vigorously for 24 months and they achieved both goals. They were awarded the 4-star status by Skytrax and they turned an $8 million profit last year.
Wow.
Again, if you go to YouTube and you type in Ron Kaufman and Air Mauritius, you'll see an interview with the CEO and he talks about the resistance that you brought up. And he says where the resistance was and what he did and how they successfully overcame it.
Wow. Just to let the listeners know that if you have any comments that you want to send in to Ron, you can always send them to me at Abraham at excellentcustomerservice365.com. That's Abraham at excellentcustomerservice365.com. And with your permission, Ron, I'd like to be able to put those videos on the site and make it easy for people if they want to go to your site or they want to come to my site. Either way, they can find it, what you're talking about, easily. Would that be okay?
You're absolutely welcome to do that, because any action you can take that will create value for someone else is something that I will support.
I like that. Okay, so folks, you heard it. You can always come to the website at excellentcustomerservice365.com, and I have a little spot there I've already created for Ron. And I'll make it obvious for you to find these wonderful things. And also you can pick things up at Ron's website, which is ronkaufman.com. Is that right, Ron?
It's RONKAUFMAN.com. That's my personal website. And you'll see a lot of things there about the keynote speaking and the authoring that I do. The company's website is called upyourservice.com. Yourservice.com, and there you'll find a resource center with hundreds of other free resources, things that people can download and use right away to begin improving the quality of service and the culture of service where you work.
Well, hey, that is definitely giving value to making excellent customer service a standard, that's for sure. And so tell us anything else you'd like to tell us about that you can help people make excellent customer service a standard.
Well, I think it's really, it's a personal thing, and I'll wrap up with this. There's a lot of things in our lives today, media, advertising, academic competition, jealousy, greed, that have people living life out of a point of view that's what's in it for me? Mm-hmm. How much do I get? How do I get more? What's my share? How do I increase, my take? And that whole way of living, I think, actually leaves people feeling kind of empty. You can end up with a lot of toys or even a lot of wealth, but not really feel fulfilled or satisfied.
That's right.
So if you turn something over from what's in it for me to what can I do for you, there's a very surprising outcome. If you go through life thinking, what can I do for you? Like walking into that store with your sunglasses thinking, what can I do for the person on the other side of the counter that will make her day a little brighter, a little better? the surprising impact is that not only does it make her day brighter and better, but it makes your day brighter and better. So if you actually want to have a better day, if you want more of what's in it for you, the surest way I know to get it is to focus on what you can do for someone else.
I think that is wonderful words of wisdom. I say it like this: when you give, you get. And when you take, you get taken. And I think that, that's what happens. Yep. It's really, takers get taken. And givers, actually a real giver doesn't even want anything in return.
He or she knows that what goes around comes around. That it may not be on a one-for-one transactional basis, but the more good spirit you give, the more you care about other people, it makes your whole experience of life better. And so it'll definitely come back.
Great. Well, Ron, I so much appreciate that you took the time, because I know you're very, very busy, to be able to come to my podcast and to have our listeners to be able to learn something. Hopefully they've learned a lot and they'll be able to go right to work on it. And certainly, again, people can go ahead and go to Ron's website at ronkaufman.com. And say it again, Ron.
Well, there's upyourservice.com is the company. But if they want to go to the website for the book, it's called upliftingservice.com.
So, Ron, thank you very, very much. I very much appreciate that you did take your time to speak to us.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to be with you today.
Wow, that was a great interview. After speaking to Ron, I'm having that direct connection with him. I just felt I was being uplifted as I was going through the interview, and I'm feeling really good right now and inspired. So I hope you do too. If you've come this far, you probably do. Please, if you have any questions for Ron, for myself, any contributions yourself that you'd like to make, go ahead and shoot an email out to me at abraham@excellentcustomerservice365.com. Or you can just go ahead and post at our LinkedIn group at Making Excellent Customer Service the Standard. All right, well, first of all, I want to thank the Master of the Universe for giving me this opportunity to be able to hear how I can be an uplifting person and help you uplift your customer service, yourself, through people like Ron, who he's uplifting the world. So all of us can be representatives to that idea. And I want to thank you for listening and for your support. Also, I want to tell you a little bit about what I do. As I mentioned in the beginning, I produce podcasts like this one here. I do voiceover. I do digital event strategy, which means that I can help you put together online events and online strategies to help you to get more customers, more leads, take your customers that you already have, and really maximize them online. I produce also webinars, lots of wonderful things for you to help you spread your message or do training or whatever it is that you want to be able to influence people online through the podcast, websites, digital events. Well, I'm going to help you do that in an engaging way. All right. Once again, thank you. And I am looking forward to seeing how you make excellent customer service a standard.